Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday Live Dharma. Today, Lara Olson is going to give us a Dharma talk titled Judging Others or Defining Myself. And today, Reverend Sean Song, who's been visiting us from Korea, is going to share his experience staying at our temple in North Carolina. And please look forward to his beautiful singing at the end as well. Please join us for Qi Gong. Please follow Reverend Gong, following the video recorded in Carolina mountains.
With gratitude, I bow to the grace of heaven and earth, the infinite source and blessing of marvelous existence. With gratitude, I bow to the grace of parents, ancestors, and everyone who has helped me give my life and nurture it. With gratitude, I bow to the grace of fellow beings. We are enriched and sustained through our interconnectedness. With gratitude, I bow to the grace of laws. With Dharma and universal principles to guide us, we embrace the protections of justice and freedom developed in human law. Meditation is simple and easy. Anyone can practice it. Please take time to find your most comfortable position on the floor or in a chair. Now wiggle to release any tension in your body. Rock front to back or side to side like the pendulum of a grandfather clock until you find the point of perfect balance. Breathe in, grab all your tension. Breathe out, release any mental or physical uneasiness. Relax your whole body. It is okay to slouch a little bit if that feels more natural. Just remember to let your mind's eye focus on belly breathing. Breathe and listen to your body. If your body agrees, gradually sit up tall. Gently straighten your spine without losing focus on the energy in your lower abdomen. You may start to feel your lower back growing stronger and your chest and heart opening. Now, open your eyes softly and look straight ahead with a level gaze. Without moving your head or eyes, let your eyelids relax and drift downward to their most comfortable place. While keeping your ears softly aligned with your shoulders, tuck your chin in slightly and let your shoulders melt away from your ears. Enjoy the sensation of your arms and hands relaxing. Now, bring your awareness to your tongue. Place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth. While your tongue is relaxed on your palate, pure and clear saliva may gather in the mouth. This is a delightful sign of cool energy ascending. Smile at your calm and clear spirit. Invite your awareness to return to your lower abdomen, your Qi energy field. This is called the Danjan and located about 2 inches below your navel. Your Danjan is the power center for your breathing. Scan your entire body to see if there is any tension, especially in your face and head, neck and shoulders. If your face or body begins to itch, simply note the itching and let it pass. If your legs ache unbearably, you may change position very slowly and quietly so that you maintain a calm stillness and honor the silent practice of those around you. When thoughts arise in your mind, do not be disturbed by them. Do not react to your thoughts or pursue them. Recognize they are just thoughts. They will disappear by themselves. Continue to bring your awareness back to your danjan abiding breath. When your mind is calm, concentrated, perfectly focused, and at peace, you will rest in the realm of samadhi, deep meditation. You will no longer feel any distinction between yourself and others, finding yourself free from the limits of time and place. We are grateful to sit quietly together, finding the still point within. May we be here now, deeply aware of our ever calm, ever alert spirit. 영주 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정 전지연기야 심정 만사요에야 심정 전지요와 동일체 하요 전지동 심정. Prayer for world peace. Grace of heaven and earth, grace of parents, grace of fellow beings, grace of laws. O Dharmakaya Buddha, fourfold grace, may we take refuge in Dharma and be filled with compassion and wisdom. May we transform delusion into wisdom, greed into generosity, resentment into gratitude, discord into harmony, and hatred into compassion. May all nations grow and benefit mutually. May the strong help the weak, and may the weak learn and evolve according to Dharma. May all those who have died from world conflicts and disasters be delivered through all obstacles and be at rest. May there be peace throughout the world, and may all beings enjoy tranquility and happiness, living in their original true nature. This we pray with our whole hearts.
Heart Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion, when deeply practicing Prajnaparamita, realized that all five aggregates are empty. Thus became free from all suffering and distress. O Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Is emptiness. Emptiness is form. The same is true of sensations, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease in emptiness. No form, no sensations, no perceptions, no impulses, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no ocean of suffering. No path, no wisdom, no attainment, with nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva relies on Prajnaparamita. Therefore the mind has no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Free from delusion, one dwells in nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future rely on Prajnaparamita and attain supreme enlightenment. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great mantra, is the great enlightening mantra, is the unsurpassed and unequal mantra, which is able to eliminate all suffering. This is true, not false, so proclaim the Prajnaparamita mantra, which says Dhan, Dhan, Dhammiyan, Thariyan, thou awake. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Today, our dear friend Laura Won-La-Son is going to give us a Dharma talk titled Judging Others or Defining Myself. Let us all practice deep listening, and at the end of our talk, please feel free to share your takeaway in our live chat.
Good morning. My name is Lara. My Dharma name is Won-La-Son. The title of my talk may already have reminded you of a well-known quote whose author is unknown to me. When we judge others, we don't so much define them as we define ourselves. I've known for a few months that this would be the topic of my talk today, and so recently, when we listened to 3 Dharma talks that all deal in some way with non-judgment, I paid close attention. From Michael Macklin's talk on the concept of no self in Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism, I learned that our notion of ourselves, of I, is not based on our own inner experience, but is solely based on how we think others see us. Reverend Wanggong's talk, No Self in the Heart Sutra, explained further that the Buddhist ideal of no self can be considered as a way to transcend any fixed idea of ourselves, which gives us space to find commonality with others rather than taking sides, and practice discernment without judgment. Finally, from Reverend Young's talk on absorption of the self-nature, my takeaway was that we can practice and develop the ability to transform negative responses to situations that push our buttons. I'll speak more about these ideas this morning, but really I have tried to base my talk on my own experience and to make it as practical as possible. It's my own how-to eliminating the everyday garden variety kinds of judgmental thinking that is one of my greatest challenges. My affinity for the Dharma makes it relatively easy for me to absorb the concepts and philosophy of Mahayana Buddhism, but it's when I try to apply the Dharma to my daily life that I can easily lose track of the truth. But I was inspired by Reverend Young's assertion that deep absorption in one's true nature can give us a powerful tool to cut off habitual responses to challenging situations. And so, here is an outline of my challenge to myself to give up judgmental thought. First, it seems to me that in order to meet a challenge, the challenge has to be specifically defined. So, what do I mean by judgmental thought? What I do not mean is discernment. Living in the real world, we have to make decisions constantly in order to exist and function. What food will best nourish me today? How should I speak to a colleague about a problem at work? Should my child be vaccinated when the vaccine is approved? These decisions require us to seek accurate information, to weigh pros and cons, and to consider the desired outcome. What they do not require is for us to insert our ego into the process with its need to bolster our self-image and protect our fragile notions of ourselves. The involvement of the ego turns ordinary decision-making into judgmental thinking. This is the kind of mental sophistry that I'm referring to here. Here are some examples of judgmental thinking from my own experience. They come from a journal that I've kept for the last 3 months. Here's the first. Does he have to run right up on me while I'm walking and pass me with barely inches to spare? Doesn't he know that COVID can be passed by the particles from his heavy panting? Here's the second. What is wrong with her hair? Can't she at least touch up her roots? After all, she is a news anchor on television. It gets worse. My last. It figures that her grocery cart is full of chips and soda. Why else would she be so overweight? And so on. Am I ashamed to share these with you? Of course I am. But I want to be honest about how unhelpful, how ridiculous and petty this kind of thinking is. So, I have identified my challenge. We know that, according to psychology, the first step is to look at root causes of behavior in order to eliminate them. In our Buddhist practice, mindfulness and deep understanding can be tools for change. We know that we are conditioned by our environment, including the opinions and thinking of our family, our friends, and society. The recent science of epigenetics also theorizes that we actually inherit emotions from our ancestors and from the environment, including so-called transgenerational trauma. Accordingly, although we are infinitely free, most of us have become prisoners of conditioned reflexes and predictable reactions, habitual and automatic. I can't access knowledge of my inherited emotions and possible trauma, but I only need to remember my mother and her sister to understand where I learned judgmental thought. My mother and aunt were both quite witty, and when they were together, which was often, nothing was safe from their quips. Other women and their fashion choices were especially rich material for their catty comments. Although I couldn't begin to match their verbal wit, I absorbed the thinking that produced it, and it became my habit of thought as well. I should add that my mother was an extremely compassionate person and an emotional support to everyone around her. Who can say why and how she learned to be judgmental? My introduction to judgmental thought was only intensified as I studied music from an early age and on through college. Every note was judged incessantly, and perfection became the impossible aim. Even more than judging the artistry of others, a self-limiting and destructive pattern of self-judgment was formed in those years. I'll come back to this idea later. Now that I had a better understanding of the roots of my judgmental thinking, I looked inward to see the role that my own ego plays in perpetuating it. As I said before, it's the involvement of the ego in our decision-making that produces judgmental thinking. The ego's role is to protect and perpetuate the notion of myself, distinct and unique from others. As it relates to judging others, what I've discovered is that I tend to judge in others what I least like or most fear in myself. I have struggled my whole life to keep my weight under control, and so I am quick to judge others for being overweight, for poor eating habits, and so on. I am terrified of falling into dementia as I grow old, and so I am impatient with others my age who don't challenge their minds through study or acquiring new skills. Remember the title of my talk? My judgments about others are really describing me. So with this deeper understanding of why I am judgmental, what practical steps could I take to eliminate this pattern of thought? One of my daily habits is to walk about 3 miles on a lovely woodsy path. It's a resource in my town that attracts many walkers, hikers, and runners. I decided that this would be my laboratory for trying out different methods of overcoming my judging mind. My first tactic before setting out was simply to say to myself, no judgment. Well, it did remind me of my resolve, but I quickly realized that I needed something less aspirational and more concrete. My snap-second judging thoughts about everyone I passed on the trail were so relentless that I finally resorted to limiting myself to observing only the color of the clothing that they were wearing. Before I could formulate some judgmental thought, I said to myself, blue shorts, green cap, brown t-shirt, red running shoes, and so on. This actually worked. It caught me in the momentary mind gap between initial perception and forming a judgment, and let me simply observe in the moment. Another device I used to help escape the judging moment was to reframe the context of my interactions with others. I thought back to my Peace Corps experience in Thailand, where the culture seemed impenetrable and inscrutable to my American way of thinking. I had decided while I served there to try never to judge what I was observing, since I was fairly certain that it was not at all what it seemed. Why shouldn't the same approach work with anyone whose behavior or appearance doesn't fit my own notions of acceptability? This became particularly helpful in my interactions with others whose viewpoints I don't share or whose decisions seem to me wrongly informed. I was moving beyond the laboratory of my morning walks into more interactive territory. It gradually became easier to separate the person from the viewpoint or the decision and gave me more mental space to consider others' points of view. Finally, I decided to create a simple mantra that would serve as an in-the-moment reminder of my intention and my insights so far, and also as an acknowledgement of a more open acceptance of others. I struggle with self-acceptance as well, and have always felt that I somehow need to justify my own existence. Over a long time, I've created a model in my own mind of how I and all other sentient beings exist together to create and sustain a codependent unity. I've imagined an amoeba-like entity comprising all things in the universe, in which we sentient beings are like myriad small emanations along its outer edges, constantly probing outward to receive sensations and retracting as we pass them inward to the center. This is the only image that has ever allowed me to make sense of myself. I and everyone and everything here with me is a probing mechanism that the universe uses to experience its own infinite nature. With this model in mind, I created mantras such as, "You are an emanation of the universe," or better, "We are fellow probers of universal thought." So is all this working for me? On my best days, when the sun is shining and the planets are aligned, yes. It has now become my habit of thought to appreciate colors, mumble the same thing over and over under my breath, and pretend that I'm living in Thailand. But seriously, my mind is quieter, I feel less alienated, and more a part of a perfectly functioning unity. And what about my self-judgment? I said before that this is also part of my habit of judging. Almost every action I take is simultaneously being evaluated by my judging mind. I also feel that everything I do and say is judged by others. Honestly, do I really think that I loom that importantly in others' minds? In a recent conversation with Reverend WontempleNC, she asked me if I felt judged by others. When I told her that I did, she asked if that's why I don't participate more in group activities at the temple, if it's easier for me to avoid feeling judged by being alone. I replied, "Well, that doesn't make any difference. If others aren't there to judge me, I'm perfectly willing to do it for myself." Thinking again of the ego's role in judgment, I wonder now if self-judgment isn't the last stronghold of the ego's role in self-preservation. I'll judge myself before others can have a crack at me. Remember what I learned from Michael's talk, that we define ourselves not from our own inner experience, but how we think that others see us? And Reverend WontempleNC's insight that we can transcend any fixed notion of who we are and open ourselves to acceptance of both ourselves and others? In other words, the self is not a permanent, unchanging thing. It is a moment-to-moment creation of our ego. Rather than feeling that this gives us no leg to stand on, we can use it as the catalyst to move beyond our own limitations and see others as beings who are also endowed with infinite capacity for change and growth. Do you remember my analogy of the amoeba-like universe with all sentient beings as probing fingers? If you found it weird or just plain wacko, that's okay. The point is that we are interrelated far more fully and deeply than we can imagine. My probing intelligence informs the whole and is informed by it as well. But my judgment is not necessary to others' experience of their own existence. We are all creating a chain of cause and effect that creates a universal karma, which we can only dimly understand. Judging others and judging myself is like pinning a butterfly to a table. Yes, it will let me examine the butterfly for a moment, but in the next moment, I will be looking at a lifeless shell. I'm continuing to try not to pin others down and to stop impaling my own wings as well. Thank you for letting me share my first steps on this journey with you. I would be very interested to see your comments, especially if you deal with this matter yourselves, in our live chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura, for your insightful and honest Dharma talk. A Dharma talk is ever so strong and powerful when it comes from our own experience, and our own struggles, and our own contemplation. So thank you so much for your practice and sharing this with us. Now let us have a moment of silence to reflect on today's message. Or in our live chat, you are welcome to share your takeaway. Reverend Sean Song, after a month-long visit, is going back to Korea tomorrow morning. He's going to share his experience at one temple in North Carolina. Please welcome Reverend Song with your warm hearts.
Good morning, I'm Sean again. This time, I'd like to share my reflection on my stay in this temple community during this past month. I can say it was a wonderful time and tremendous experience for my transformation. I asked Patty what she felt was attractive about Won Buddhism. She said, "It is the people." Like many of you, she was a practitioner herself before coming to this temple. After joining here, as time went by, she was more inclined to Reverend Qi Gong's charms and became a faithful practitioner. Rather than how profound the scriptures might be, or what a fancy building we have, it is the people who actually put the teachings into action that is more important. I met one Dharma friend the third day of my visit. It's Nate. We are adjusting times and schedules for our work. I made some suggestions. "Is that what Reverend Qi Gong said?" he asked, and I said, "Yes." He replied, "Okay, then I'll go for it." Wow. Without hesitation or doubt, he said okay right away. In the same way, many of you have trust, reliance, and faith in our reverends and in each other. And that's what makes this temple a success. Also, I could see ownership among the Sangha members. For me, as a 교무님, it is often simpler to get things done if I do them by myself. But in this temple, everything works just fine without the reverends. Creating this temple system was not easy, but I can see that under Reverend Qi Gong's guidance, Reverend Ziyang's coordination, and Dharma friends' attitudes as owners and leaders of our temple made it happen. Reverend Qi Gong has so many teachers. From what I've seen, and as many of you have said, she has something in her mind, and even though she knows the way, she never stops asking for suggestions. And I can see things are always progressing, improving, and getting better. Reverend Qi Gong is always practicing the primacy of the wise. Birds of a feather flock together. You all have gathered here to recover your equanimity, to practice, to contribute to society, and to make good use of what you've learned in daily life. This is such a healthy community, and in the future, I'd love to be part of it. Thank you everyone for a wonderful time. Being here, I feel that I've seen the future way of practitioners, the hope of Won Buddhism, and the meaning of selfless service. If I get a chance, I'll ask to be assigned here and flock together with y'all birds in the future. Thank you. And in gratitude, I'd like to sing a song for you. A little bit. Look at me. I will never pass for a perfect 교무님 or a perfect son. Can it be? I'm not meant to play this part. Now I see that if I were truly to be myself, I would break my family's heart. Who is that nice-looking guy I see staring straight back at me? Why is my reflection someone I don't know? Somehow I cannot hide who I am, though I've tried. When will my reflection show who I am inside? When will my reflection show who I am inside? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Sean. That was a beautiful song. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you next week.